Leisure
I'm
next
just.
week.
I won't be-
I think I just stay over one night and I can't drive for a couple days.
Brother is
Because I
supposed to get
I
it.
have faith that
Yeah, my brother has AFib. I'm not gonna get it. I'm just gonna do it. Medication.
yeah, but it doesn't always work. It doesn't work. There's days it's awful.
Yeah, he said his heart sometimes goes up to over 200 beats a minute. Like that's like stroke potential.
I know, the whole thing's stroke. I know, I have times like today's a good day, yesterday was a crappy day.
Oh, Bill Morrison had it. Then sees it over good.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I have sleep apnea too.
You have to use the.
Yeah.
Can you do the dental appliance instead?
I kind of asked the lady, I see her Thursday. She blew me off, but my heart doctor said I should go for it.
But you could use the. It's too. It's an option.
I do have the stupid appliance.
You do.
Things on the floor, there's water everywhere, it's horrible. Most of the time I rip it off in the middle of the night.
Oh,
I
isn't
can
it
sleep.
something like a
Oh,
retainer? No, not the mask. The other. All right, are we live? We are. Should we record? We are recording.
oh, really?
In fact, everybody knows you. Hey, Peter.
Hi there. How is everyone?
Good.
Good. How you doing? You gonna play some basketball?
No, my kids put that there, and every time I'm in a meeting, I'm like, maybe I should take that off, but I guess it's all right.
You doing our show?
Hi, hello, how are you?
Okay, I guess we'll begin. Okay, so did everybody, I think we did talk about the meeting minutes from March.
Mhm.
She just handed them out again here in person. Everybody had a chance to take a look.
Make a motion to accept the March 18th, 2025 minutes.
Second. Yes. Bradley, second. Any discussion, comments?
They look good.
Hearing none. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Opposed. Someone coming in? Oh. Right, fairly light agenda. I mean, this is pretty much a ditto of last month, and we're just kind of keeping on task. And we have a lot of news on the landowner contact front. Maybe it will start with that. And Bradley and I went on a walkabout in the village yesterday, and we contacted Margaret Tatro.
All right.
What's that?
I said, all right.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
also it's a triple bonus because she has 3 parcels in the village that we didn't know. I didn't know she owned. So she has her house is the kind of old farmhouse next to the Grimes property.
Mm-hmm.
The mobile home at Grimes, kind of the next one east of that on that north side of the road on 15. She's very much in favor. She just didn't get around to filling out the form. And she wants, Peter, this is where I had a question for you. So she has the three properties. And she wanted to see if she can get stubs at all three.
Okay.
So it's the farmhouse. There's the mobile home that's for sale on 15. That's hers as well. Actually, is it 4 properties?
No, there's only 3.
And then there's the red,
But does she want the workshop?
the red barn across the road was another one, but she meant that wet spot.
She said there's a parcel in between
Yeah.
the trailer and her place.
But the one across the road,
And then there's the one across. That's
Yeah.
so is that 4? It could potentially be 4.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, yeah, you may want to, I told her that it'd be best to talk to an engineer.
Yeah.
And to see exactly what she wants. And then there's a question of holding capacity for 4. It's first the stub question, which I think we decided to err on the side of let's get stubs wherever we can. But then there's a question of how much capacity does she want to hold?
Right.
That can come later, I guess, but and then the question of how you handle the easements, if it's 4 properties, but only one, there's an existing building, and the other 2 or 3 are potential. So I don't know how you're going to work, how we work the easement in that regard.
So my question to you is, did you think Margaret was capable of making all these decisions, or do you think one of her children should be there too?
She was
seemed pretty
she seemed pretty
capable.
lucid, but she was very chatty.
Yeah.
She seemed like a little lonely.
Yeah.
She repeated herself a little bit, but she seemed okay.
Seemed very curious.
Because her thought is she's going to sell the home maybe in the near future and wanted it hooked up to improve the value of the land. But it would be worth a one-on-one conversation, Peter.
Okay. Are they actual separate parcels, or she's just envisioning like separate home sites?
The way she said it, I believe they are already.
They were originally separate parcels, but we would have to read the deed to see if they have been combined,
Merge, yeah.
merged.
Okay.
Her daughter was at the mobile home for a while.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the other property, there's the barn across from the house and
It's a
the
workshop.
workshop. I don't know if that can technically be developed because it's probably in the river corridor.
That's a good question. I don't know. We haven't really looked at zoning or anything for that, but do you have someone at the town that could look at that from that perspective? I mean,
Well, the
It's-
zoning allowed them to build this workshop. It's fairly
Yeah.
new.
okay.
If they want to add a house to the
In the
workshop.
flood of 23, it did get flooded. It doesn't usually, but in the flood of 23, it did.
Okay.
I mean, if she wanted to put a house, if she sold it with the intention of someone building a house there next to
Right.
the workshop, I don't know if that's possible. And I guess the same question would apply to Bruce.
Her father used to have a house there
Yeah, she said. they
years
used to
and
have a house
years and years ago.
in the same. would
Okay.
apply to-
Well, we can certainly work with her on all of that. That seems fine. I know originally I was envisioning someone maybe wanting to do something with that garage parcel before I realized it was not really. Well, I guess I'm not clear. I think Alex told me it wasn't a separate parcel, but typically a state road would actually divide it. So
So it's one parcel. The whole thing.
Huh?
That map said, the parcel map online off the website says it's one parcel, both sides.
But okay, but that could be for tax purposes. I think this might be something that David, the attorney, could look at.
Well, the
Just
town
like-
clerk can look at
The
it.
town clerk, yeah.
Yeah, she can.
Also, Peter, she did mention there's a lot of springs. There's a lot of ledge behind the house, and there's a lot of springs, and she said it was a great water source, and she was concerned about the system. And I told her where the line would be, and it wouldn't be anywhere near the springs in the back. She said there were several springs.
Yeah,
The other interesting piece, I stopped at Grimes in Morrisville, the office, and he's got the parcel next to Tetro, the
right.
mobile home. That's Ken Grimes owns it, but one of his employees is renting it, and he said the employee may be buying that parcel from him. He wants that. He was a yes. So he's going to send the form in for that parcel. And then he asked me if he could add on the farmhouse on the other side of the driveway that it's abandoned now, but he is thinking about renovating it or putting another building there, and wanted to know if he can hook that in. So does that extend beyond our village designation? And I assume we can add it on because it's just maybe another 50 feet past.
I think it's fine. I'll double check to make sure it's not out of the village zone. But I think we were just a little unclear on what Grimes might actually want. And so that's great that he's kind of come around to wanting to connect. He was
the stub there,
Yeah.
and he'll do yes on the form.
Yeah,
Again,
that makes sense.
it's kind of a yes, no now, and where we put the stubs in for the design, and then later it's a capacity, like, how long is he willing to hold the capacity for that before he builds?
I guess that's the question. If people like that, it's one thing to put a stub and have the potential to connect later. It's another thing to say, yes, I want to start paying for my fees so that I get the tanks and all the infrastructure installed as part of this project.
Right. So that's what how do we do that if someone's on the fence of whether or not they're going to develop later? As far as I'm talking about, like the tank, especially.
I think they just have to do their own financial analysis. Personally, if it were my property and I was on the fence, I would start paying the whatever $40 a month just to have it. Because it would take a lot of years to, it's going to take a lot of years of $40 a month to pay off the $15,000 system that they're going to need to install.
And I was thinking, Peter, the question of they wouldn't have to pay the $40 a month until the system is online, which is going to be next fall, a year from this fall, right? So
Correct.
if there's like that old farmhouse, for example, or Margaret's mobile home that's no one's living in, do we design the system with these hypotheticals as far as the septic tank and the line, and then actually build it next summer before we're online? And then they may not. There's one issue about holding the capacity. It's another issue of actually building something for a building that's not currently in use. You know what I'm saying?
They have to decide that.
Well, if they say yes, and then they don't do anything with the building for a couple of years, and how we gonna figure out how to handle that, I guess.
I think they just start. I don't know exactly how the ordinance is drafted right now, but I think they make a decision if they get all the infrastructure, they're going to start paying whether or not they're putting wastewater into the system or not. So I think Linda's right. They have to make a decision if it's worth it for them to start paying now to have all that infrastructure, or if they just want us to stub for them, that's fine too. But then when they do want to start using it, they're going to have to put their own tanks in and own their own pump stations and all that.
Starting in the fall of 26, we're telling them for that, let's say that old abandoned farmhouse, we will put a stub in, we'll design it, we'll build you a septic tank. And I don't know how we're going to hook it into an abandoned building, the line, but then we'll do that only if you're going to pay the $40 a month starting in fall of 26. So we have some leverage there that they're gonna start paying. We'll build this tank for you and hook you up, or potentially hook you up now. You start paying in the fall, even if the building's not there yet. or nothing.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's the way it's currently written to work, with the ordinance, and kind of just a decision they need to make. I know for myself, I would personally, if I was planning to do anything in the next 5 years or so, maybe even 10 years, it's probably worth just paying. I'd have to do the math of what that adds up to, but kind of curious, sorry. Yeah, so I mean, after 10 years, you'd still only have $5,000 into it. And you're gonna spend more than that on tanks and contractor and all of that to get it installed. And 10 years from now, it'd be more expensive.
I guess you'd have to just talk to them like the mobile home that's there and the abandoned farmhouse. When it comes to construction time, you can put the tank, closer to the road or something, but you're figuring out where to pipe.
We'd have
goes
to
into
talk to
it.
them. We'd have to let them decide where they want to put the tank, and we could work with them to leave some flexibility if they're not sure where the new structure might go. Yep.
The line out, you always have a cap on. But they're attached to later anyways.
Yeah, I mean, if they really don't know, that would be my recommendation would be to put the tank in, and stub the line that would go to the house. We'd have to put some thought into whether or not they get the electrical stuff now or later and how that would work. That would be something I'd have to put a little thought into, or take a better look at the properties or see what they think. If there's no power at all, then we probably can't do it. You have to hook into a panel, but
Yeah.
we could
Right,
probably.
Someone was asking, Mark that was asking about the panel? Or maybe it's teacher, Grimes. Someone was asking about the panel and what you have to have on the panel to run the pump for the tank, for the septic tank. What is it? What do they need on the panel to run the pump? Was a question that came up.
Like meaning what type of power?
Right. Well, on their electrical panel.
Oh, yeah. These are not super high head pumps or anything. So they really shouldn't need anything special. I'm not really an electrician, but I don't think they need any special power, 3-phase or anything like that.
Just another, I contacted Pete Johnson. He has 2 buildings. He's a landlord. One right next to the store, to the west of the store, and one on the east side of 15, the big multi-unit apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was a yes for both of those.
Yeah, I believe he got back to us. I haven't scrutinized if he asked for any extra capacity or anything like that, but I think he was pretty straightforward and responsive.
Okay. And then Linda mentioned today that Michelle Bordeaux is emailing the form to Belinda.
Yeah, Alex.
She's 2 down from the store, to the west of the store.
Yeah, Alex told me that. That's great. I mean, it seems like we're really picking them off at this point.
We just didn't get a hold of Douglas. No one was home.
So,
Left him a note.
So it's in the name of Scott and Marcia Douglas. Scott is dead. Marcia is divorced and lives out of state. So you have to deal with Ashley, even though she doesn't own it. And
Does she
so-
live there?
Yeah, Ashley owns there. Ashley Douglas.
Okay, I left the form with a note on it.
Yeah. Oh, you left the,
I mean, I can try to swing over there after this meeting to see if she's there in the evening.
So we got back in the mail, the Mars. And this building up here, Williams, we were trying to find out. a
Right next door-
contact
right next
to Bernard.
Oh, the grade where the
Yeah,
village.
we're trying to find a mailing address and they're not using it. They did own that, place in Hardwick that worked when you had a fire or something and they come in and clean your house, but they're not operating anymore. We don't know where they are. We're trying to.
That's not a buyout, right?
No,
Did it get
is
flooded?
DeMars? I thought Alex told me DeMars was the post office building. Is that?
Yes.
Doesn't sound like it.
yes.
It is?
Yeah,
Is it still the post office and they just rent to the federal government or?
yes.
Okay. That makes sense. I mean, like I
The
said. to
trouble
Alex,
is, I'll tell you, we had to fix the septic at the town hall. And we gave them, and part of it's on their land. And we told them if theirs failed, that they could hook onto ours, so I don't know.
what they're thinking then.
Yeah, but I know the post office wants out because it's not big enough.
That's what I said. Anybody who wants to be thinking about the long-term viability of that property, it would make sense for them to connect, especially knowing the post office. Who knows how long any of these post offices are gonna be around for in smaller towns.
How about MSI?
MSI, I called Jim Mahoney, their attorney, I didn't talk to him, but he sent an email saying this is the first he saw this. It's like, really?
Well, they,
He
I
did
am-
send something to Alex today, but it's, yes, I confirm my connection, interest, and would like to make changes to the current use. And then he has some kind of engineering, a letter about how much he needs.
yeah, so. I think I mentioned at the last meeting, I've met with all of them and and their engineer. And they're hoping they have plans for that facility. And we have been getting information from them on that. So I mean, I don't see any reason why they're not. They seemed interested and happy and excited about it. So, and near as I can tell, that's all moving forward. So I think that's all good.
Yeah, they sent it to Alex too,
So we only had
today.
a few outright no's, right? Or there were either no responses or no's, right? We only had a few.
Yeah, we have 5 no's so far. 3 of those properties do not meet the opt-out criteria and 2 do. 2 have permitted systems since 2007. So that, I guess that's, we probably maybe at the next meeting when we've kind of teased out these last couple and we know how many we have and how many like legitimately opt out, the committee can start thinking about recommendations to the select board on what they're going to want to do once that ordinance is adopted and what we're going to do with the folks who just flat out don't want to connect. I will say with some of these other ones like Grimes and Margaret Tatro, we're starting to maybe get our numbers back up to where we're hoping to be. So that's really good news.
Yeah. Part of me wanted to see if there was any more on Flatiron or going up towards the school. There's a few homes up there, but I think.
Those are out of the zone, I believe.
Yeah, because the
Um,
guy at the end wants it.
He does?
Yeah, but he doesn't, he's not in the,
But isn't it, it's within the village, boundaries plus, a quarter mile, right? I'm just thinking,
Yeah, I
like,
want-
if you go from the 15 side across the river, that's less than a quarter mile, right? Get creative in your polygon of the.
I don't think there's any way to be creative. We could take a look at it, but if my recollection is the line is somewhere just beyond the Flatiron Road intersection.
Because we're adding Ryan Borky.
He was in. He counts. Yeah. I don't know that I can get my hands on that map super easy. I don't know if you guys can see it there.
Right copy here, yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe you can see it's that yellow kind of ovally line. We can certainly look at it, and I could talk to I could talk to Lynette. There might be other ways to get those users on. We can't be using the federal funds for their piece of it. But if those folks are willing to pay for some of the infrastructure, or if the town wants to get more creative, I don't think there's anything that says they can't be connected.
does the northern borders cover that, or do they have it just set up for the village district?
I don't know the answer to that.
This is.
Northern Borders is federal money, so
I think that's our.
Yeah, but did the federal just say, are they the ones that say we only can do the?
no, I think you're right, Linda. I think it's the ARPA money that had to be for the village designation.
It's like.
I don't know how you would do anything on that road anyway, there's so much lead. It's horrible.
What would it be to probably go across the bridge than try to go solve that ledge on that road?
See, Linda, this is this our bound? This is the boundary?
Mm-hmm.
There's, one house is actually in the boundary here. That one. I'm sorry about these houses. You're talking about.
There was one that was like right on the line.
This guy wants it.
What about Jim? What about Jim Holm?
I don't know, I don't know.
Yeah, probably be easier to run it.
This one's about ready to fall on the river anyway,
Yeah.
but it's a lot that someone might wanna buy in the
Which is
future.
Jim's, this one or this?
His would be this. Here,
So we're looking at the map, Peter, and it's, what's our scale here? I mean, we're talking 500 feet, less than 1,000 feet from the line,
Yeah,
From it. Yeah.
from the big.
and I was looking for Grimes, it's way over here.
I think he was fine, is my recollection, because
That's his.
we've been telling him he could connect either or of those buildings.
So this is the village boundary, right?
Yeah,
So it's just not much. I mean, that's 1,000 feet. That's less than 1,000 feet.
well, it could possibly be, maybe northern borders.
But then but let's just say if we had get the okay to do, it seems like a lot to run a line for one more person, but if we got a few, it might be a better incentive if we had 2 or 3 up
Well-
at the upper end of Flatiron near the bottom of the hill from the school.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know that's where you meant that. I think that is out as you get up past, sorry, what's the guy who is connecting on Flatiron Road?
Yeah, it is,
It's out by us, but it's out by like 500 feet or 600 feet.
It's too bad. You
Yeah,
can't run a pump station.
I mean, my
Right.
understanding, and it's too bad Lynette's not here, but my understanding is it's either in or out, and there's not really any gray area, and like no money at all can be used if it's out.
Is that the boundary on the map? Is that the original village designation, or is that with the plus quarter mile?
That's what's over there.
That's
That's with the
That's the
quarter
plus.
Okay,
mile. Yeah.
so they would have to, essentially, they could hook up, they would have to pay extra to run a line up there.
If it was
That-
with ARPA money, we're gonna find out if Northern Borders money would pay for that further extension, and we will find
Yeah.
out.
Because we would
I
have
can,
extra.
I have a call into Lynette about something else anyway, so when we connect, I can ask her that question. If there's a way, what we can do to get them on there. And is the idea that they might be interested, or you're pretty sure they would like to connect, Jim?
Well, Linda said there was one.
So at the end of that Flatiron Road, that person really was interested in signing up. He actually came to a meeting, I think, but we told him he couldn't.
He couldn't, yeah. This is all the way out towards School Street almost, or not School Street, but the elementary school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But if it was a possibility, even if it was Northern Borders grant money, we could like knock on doors. What are there, 5 or 6 houses there? There 5 or 6 houses.
I say we table this discussion until I talk to Lynette.
Okay,
Yeah,
'Cause
that's,
5 houses up there.
That or a later
I mean,
date.
if
You could always
5
do
or
it
6
too.
wanted to, and they were willing to put some of their own money, or we can use the Northern Borders or some other funding source, and that's okay with Lynette, then that starts to make a lot of sense to get a force main all the way up through there. If it's just one house, that's kind of a long ways to go, but
So maybe shift gears. Peter, can you give us an update on the how the design is going? I don't know if you have a permitting update or as well.
yeah, we're cranking really good on moving forward towards the 60% designs. We're hoping to have that like kind of buttoned up by the end of the month. And right now we're diving pretty deep into like some of the things we haven't done a lot with, which are like the specifications. We do, now that we have more connections, we're working with the surveyor to get them back out there and survey some of the remaining lots. Unfortunately, like now that it's finally nice out, everyone's getting pretty busy. So I think they're going to be out there in early May, which really shouldn't be too much of a problem for us in terms of schedules. We're also working with the drillers to try to get another day of ledge probing just so we can refine some of our areas and make sure we're thinking about our particularly our directional borings and or jack and bores. Make sure we don't have any surprises there. We do the archaeology. We have a draft ARA, the initial review, and there are 3 or 4 areas that they would like to do a phase 1 on, which is actually physically doing some digging and testing on the ground. So I'm hoping that kind of the state archaeology program doesn't slow that down too much. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk to Lynette about. We do have a scope of work and budget from Charlie Knight, who's our consulting archaeologist on it. And I'm hoping to be able to give him the okay to move forward on that soon. And I think he's available to do that. We did the water supply testing that will help inform We did some testing of the surrounding springs around the school. And that's the information that we're hoping will help be the kind of the final pieces of our hydrogeologic assessment that Jeff Hoffer's working on. We are still waiting for some of that data to come back. Unfortunately, one of the really specialty analyses that we're doing, which is sorry, could I just see if I can get my kids to be a little quieter? I'll be right back.
The kids or cat?
Kid,
Sorry, my wife has a night meeting tonight too, so hard to keep twin 11-year-olds quiet. So anyway, I was talking about the dating of groundwater, and it's a specialty analysis that the lab that we send it to, whoever runs that analysis is off on some sort of field study. So the results of that are a bit delayed coming back. So hopefully that all comes through and we can wrap up that piece of it. What else do I have to update on?
Anything with Act 250 or was there any wetland permit? Or,
Our wetlands biologist is
well, Kristen,
as of
right?
about a week ago, she thought we'd have a draft of that application pretty soon. And I know she's going to be looking at the kind of the rare, threatened, and endangered species stuff in the bat habitats. So she's moving forward on that stuff. And the Act 250, I think I mentioned in the last meeting, we got a jurisdictional opinion that we do not need an Act 250 for the project. So we just need to do the amendment for the school system, which we need to get a little bit further along in the actual design to be able to submit for that one. But I would think it would be a relatively straightforward administrative amendment, assuming that they're going to want to see the indirect discharge permit as their justification for issuing their permit. So it's kind of a chicken and eggs thing, but they probably won't second guess Ashawak's team once they see that permit.
Yeah. It's part also, I think, of the requirements for the indirect discharge permit to check the water supply downstream the leach field.
Correct. Yep.
So that I'm just trying to get a sense of the public comment period, like how long does the Act 250 amendment take from start to finish?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's not going to need I shouldn't say it's not. I shouldn't say it's that strongly, but it shouldn't need any sort of there'll be an appeal period, but it won't be like a hearing or anything like that. I think it should be a pretty straightforward administrative amendment to the existing permit.
Now, do we need the wetland permit, all the archaeology, and the Act 250 amendment before the bids go out, or can those happen as the bids going out? Can they happen concurrently, or they have to happen?
No, I think my understanding is all the permits should be in place by then. We have tried to get a little bit of an understanding from Lynette if we're still waiting on small pieces of it that we don't think will be consequential to the actual bid pricing, and whether or not we can kind of make some of those permits conditional of the bid. We haven't really gotten word. I'm trying to remember if Lynette said she could be flexible on that at all. Ideally, we'd have all the permits before it goes out, but I'm with you on sort of that. There's a lot of little pieces that have to come together,
right.
For sure. And most of them stack on top of each other where we can't be applying for one thing until we, have the plans actually done and we can give the final plans and we have the indirect discharge permit application in. So like for the Act 250, for example, we can submit the Act 250 amendment with the indirect discharge permit application in, and they'll probably draft a draft permit, but they're not going to issue that permit until the actual indirect discharge permit's issued. So does that make sense?
Yeah, and so Peter, last month, we were told that, so essentially all the construction is gonna happen in 2026. And we had a little bit of some wiggle room on the end of construction date from Lynette, is that my understanding? So I guess what my question is that the bid, the date the bids have to go out in August of this year? Is that still August of this year, or that got moved out further because we got kind of an extension on the construction?
I think that's where we got some flexibility and a little bit of an extension. I think Lynette was probably reluctant to give it like any sort of an official extension per se, but I think she would acknowledge that it's not such a hard deadline in that, these timeframes pushing out and going into construction next year. What's really nice about the fact that we are not tied to the ARPA grant anymore, and that it's in the general fund.
And just can you just kind of give us a sense on the general timeline going forward? So we're in April now, and can you just tell us, get a sense of what the spring looks like for Stone, and is one person at Stone in charge of all the permitting, or is it distributed among you and Alex and Amy, or all the permits that we were just talking about?
That's a good question. I would say Amy is sort of focused on the environmental interest document that we're preparing. And so she's going to be kind of pulling it all together. I'm doing a little bit of the overall management of the subcontractors for those pieces of the puzzle. And in terms of like overall time frame, I think I kind of gave you an idea of the overall pieces that we're working on. The ones that archaeology is really the one that concerns me the most, I guess. That and we're having a hard time firming updates with the drillers to get kind of our final information for the 100% plans, but I think that's all going to come together. I'm hoping to have the 60% plans more or less wrapped up towards the end of this month or very early in May. And then I think this is pretty much the schedule we've been talking about for a while. I'm hoping to have kind of the overall 100% or 90 to 100% plans wrapped up into June, middle of June, and trying to get all applications in by the end of June, really.
So you said plan, you mean design?
What's that? Sorry.
You said plan, you mean design? You said 90 to 100% plan, you mean design?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot. There's quite a bit. There's more to it than just the plans. We have the plans, specifications, supporting documentation, and whatnot. All the pieces that need to go to Ashwack and her team. And at the same time, we're working with Lynette to make sure that they meet all the requirements of the Water Investment Division and the funding. So there's a lot to it. I will say that.
Yeah. Do you have everything? Do we have everything that we need from the school as far as the agreement? Do we have all the agreements in place and the easements and?
No, I mean I think that is something that we all should be focusing on. I don't remember exactly what we said last meeting, but I do think it's probably time for Linda or somebody to just be reaching out to the school and kind of giving them some updates. We'd be happy to do that as well. Um, the the I guess the piece that's we're waiting on is to be able to have the hydrogeo report so that we can sort of satisfy their concerns, right? So we need to let them know that this is all moving forward, maybe have some draft easement language in the works. But I don't think the school board's going to be satisfied till they get our hydrogeo report that kind of talks about the fact that and demonstrates that the soils and geology will be protective of that school water supply.
I know you said about the snafu, about the special analysis that has to take place and the person being on a field study.
Yeah.
Do you have a rough idea of when we're gonna get that back? Is that like May or?
I think it's going to be May. Yeah.
I'm just wondering if it would be timing wise, the timing of the results from the hydrogeology and timing with your 60% design. And then maybe we can give the school board an update with that kind of like a check-in with them, even if we have to go to one of their meetings, in person or Zoom, just to kind of give them our school budget got voted down. There's going to be another school budget vote at the end of the month, so they're pretty occupied with that. And that's the end of April. We're gonna have the second vote. So maybe sometime in May we can see if we can.
I think that sounds like a really good plan. Yeah, that makes sense. I think by then we'll have a lot more information, even if we're still waiting on maybe that particular analysis. We probably have some of the other pieces pulled together and make sure that we're kind of on the right track with that. And then we can at least update them where we stand and kind of get that back on the forefront of their brain, since it's been probably close to a year since we.
Yeah, just to check in with them. Bless them, we haven't forgotten about them. Yeah. They meet twice a month or once a month?
Once a month,
Once a month.
third Wednesday of the month.
Third Wednesday. Maybe we can see if we.
I can't, that's when we select board meets, so I don't know why
Okay.
we meet the same night.
Third Wednesday. Maybe.
In May.
What, 21st?
Yeah, 21st. And that's the night after our next committee meeting.
Right.
I'll put it on my calendar. I'll maybe check in with Amy tomorrow, just to get her thoughts on all of that. And I think that's a pretty good plan, because I think actually connecting with the full board and waiting until June that feels a little late.
Yeah. And then can you remind maybe Linda or you Peter, who's doing that easement? Or their lawyers, our lawyers?
Well, that was the one I believe Linda thought that their attorney was hands-on enough that she thought he would probably want to do it. Is that right, Linda?
Yeah, that's what I've seen in the past when we got the easement to move the road.
Mm-hmm.
I can reach out to him.
I think it would be great if you reached out to him and just said, hey, we're moving together with the pieces of this. I mean, at this point, it would probably be good for somebody to start drafting up what that agreement looks like. And maybe that's something we can talk about in May. And clearly they're going to want enough science to kind of convince them that everything's reasonable. But there's that part, and then there's also the like nitty gritty of what they're agreeing to. which quite frankly should be pretty straightforward, but
Peter, Peter and Linda, is that something, could we have a draft easement by the third Wednesday?
Well, if he's gonna, I'm gonna reach out to him, Sean Toohey. And I'm gonna ask him how he wants to handle this,
Yeah.
that we're starting the conversation. What does he need? And is he more comfortable drafting it? And we'll see.
I mean,
I think
If
that
he
sounds
says
good.
no, then we'll go to,
it would be nice that if we gave them the hydrogeology, results back, the 60% design, and even a draft easement to look at, like we could do all three, maybe?
yeah, I think that sounds good if we can get all those pieces, and if not, let's at least have all those with some sort of an update on where they stand.
so I'm gonna ask him if he needs that 60% design,
The
easement.
hydrogeology, results.
Because if he doesn't need them, I'm not wasting my time.
Well, maybe we can ask to get on their agenda.
But yeah, it'll be the attorney that's gonna tell him what to do. Just gonna.
One, I mean, for the easement, yes, but for the hydrogeology and
Yes, and
the
you
design,
guys
we need
can work on. going
Peter
to
and
business.
me, maybe.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, Peter, anything else?
I don't think so. I think that pretty much covers it.
Maybe a good segue to, the conservation easement. The landowner easement.
Okay. Are we just talking about general easement progress?
Yeah, I wanted that on the agenda tonight, so. And so, and I'm curious on the timing, so we got, we got most of the forms back. Still a few stragglers. So what's, some landowners have asked me when, I mentioned heads up, there's going to be this easement that we need you to sign. What's our timeline on, well, the status and then the timeline of when we need them to sign the conservation easement? I don't know if any of those dates that we originally mentioned, we had that kind of hard and fast with the bid papers going out with the submission of the indirect discharge permit, that we needed all these easements and everything in place before that. So I don't know where we're at now. When do we need the easements signed? So we have, yeah.
That's a good question. I guess I don't have like a deadline where it's, I mean, I think we're still working towards having all the easements towards right around when the project goes out to bid. For now, let's just keep saying we're shooting for end of August, but we know we have a little bit of leadway there. David Paulo has a draft easement that's been provided. It looks pretty good. It was modeled after the Burke easement. And we are working on sort of specialized easement plans that show, pretty much that get referenced in the easement that show like where the town has access to both construct and maintain the system once it's built. So I think we're making pretty good progress there. I know what we've discussed with David is kind of batching them. So I think he's working on the first batch at this point, and I would expect in the next week or two we'll probably have the first 5 or 6, and then I guess it would be a function of the town. I think we talked about somebody from the town clerk or somebody starting to reach out to those folks and just presenting that easement and starting to get some feedback. I don't know that we necessarily need to have them signed quite yet, but if we can start picking them off, I think that'd be great.
So in batch of the 5, so this is not just a draft. when we have a batch of 5, that's gonna be the final easement language.
Well, we're gonna need to reach out to them and say, hey, here's the easement for your review. Some of them may want to consult with their attorneys. Some of them might just feel comfortable with it. And then, I think the point when they actually get signed and finalized is kind of up in the air, but
Well,
like I said,
they need to bring them in here and be notarized
correct, yeah.
to the office. Do
Correct.
they need to give, in the past, David has wanted a PTR. Did we figure that out? Because they'll need their social security number.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if we completely figured that out yet.
Why do I need
forgot about
social?
that.
Because Vermont law, if you're transferring ownership of property, you need a property transfer form that has to have your social security number on it.
So this is, I mean, boiling it down, Peter, the easement is just giving the town the rights to access.
Want me to send it to you?
That'd be great. If we can explain it in the elevator pitch to the landowners, the easement is to give the town and the contractors working on behalf of the town access to the septic tank and anything from the septic tank to the house that, the line that might need maintenance or repair. That's what essentially the easement is, right? From the exit of the house, the pipe to the tank, to the system.
And to be able to go on the driveway and access it and repair it.
And to pump it out.
And they'll have a temporary easement and a permanent easement. I sent you all a copy.
And then does the town have to, this is kind of a different but related question. Does the town just pump out, do they contact the landowners when they're gonna pump out their tank? They'll give them a notice, we're gonna pump them
Well, that
out.
would be up to the sewer commission.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little more to it. So annually, one of the permit conditions that will be in the permit is that annually, a professional engineer, presumably me, assuming that the town still wants to keep working with us, will go around every year and inspect all of these tanks. And we'll measure the scum and the sludge in each tank and make a determination as to whether or not we want to pump it that year or not. And part of the annual report of the inspections will be any maintenance that needs to happen, and whether or not in a list of what tanks we want to do that year. So it's not going to be necessarily a prescribed thing where it's, every 3 years we're doing every house or something or anything like that. It's because some houses might not need it pumped as often because there's only one person living there or whatever. So that'll be kind of generally the way it goes. But yes, we'll need to come up with a system. The sewer commission will have to come up with a system to notify those folks when we're doing that, and then probably notify them again if we're going to be pumping that year or not. And yeah, I mean, that's the gist of it. I'll be, whoever's doing the inspection would need to check things like make sure the alarms are still working, the floats are working, and all that kind of stuff.
And that's all in the tank, the alarm, the floats. It's nothing in the house. So we don't need to access inside the house at all.
No, we shouldn't unless there's an electrical problem or something. Yep. The panels will all be out mounted somewhere outside. So.
So do we need to do anything with the easement as far as the committee goes, or is that on anybody's to-do list, or just checking with the
They're
lawyer?
working with David when the plans that will be attached to the easement are done, then batch 1 will be ready to reach out to the property owners, but it's not ready yet, I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The other piece that's kind of integral to this is that we don't want to sign any easements until we're comfortable that Ashawak and Lynette are happy with the tank locations. Because we wouldn't want to get a signed easement and then end up moving things on them and have to redo it. So
Roughly, when is that gonna be, Peter?
I would say that's, that's part of the 60% that we're talking about that will happen in the next month.
After the 60%?
Yeah, I
Sign is
think,
done.
yeah, I think around at 60%, if at that point we'll know how Lynette and Nashwack feel about each of the tanks, and some of them may still be something we're talking about and negotiating. Those won't be ones we'll wait to the end to do the easements on those. But some of them are pretty straightforward, and we can say, yeah, this is fine, and move forward with them. So
Okay.
I think it'll start to come together a little more, and we'll understand exactly the pieces, probably for next month's.
So we'll have a window, say, from mid-May to mid-August, where we have to get all of these signed.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yep. Yep.
Anything else on the easements?
No, I think that's the gist of it.
And so, Peter, are your folks, Alex or yourself, will follow through on some of those landowners where we had questions of stubs and how many parcels, and is that something that you guys are going to take care of?
Yeah, I was, the folks that you talked to, did you get them to fill out the form? Because the forms have the information for like best way for us to contact them. I'm thinking specifically of the woman who was the woman that had the 4 properties.
Tatro.
That Margaret Tatro. Yeah.
Belinda emailed it today.
Okay.
Whether she has a number on it, I don't know, but if not, we can get it probably.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as long as we can get in touch with the people, and we're up there occasionally doing these inspections. So if there are folks that are best just to knock on their door and we know they don't mind that, we're happy to do that too. So.
And the capacity question, Peter, it's kind of a separate question. It seemed like we want to know yes, no first. Are you opting in or are you trying to opt out? How many parcels, how many stubs for your design? But the capacity question gets at the size of the septic tank, which you need to know for your design. Do you need that for the 90 to 100% design, or you need that for the 60% design?
We can make assumptions for the 60, but we'll need it to finalize everything at the 90 to 100. Yeah, at that point we should start getting close. For people like Margaret Tatro, it should be pretty straightforward, and just we can figure out how many residences she wants. I'm assuming she's not really talking about commercial properties. And there's a little less in flux. It's really just how many houses you want to be connected versus somebody like MSI. We kind of have to work with them a little closer to make sure we're getting the right design flows for the potential uses they might want. Does that make sense?
I think, Peter, if you or someone from Stone contacts Tatro and Grimes, especially, when I spoke to them, I wasn't sure about this question. If you sign up now, we'll build this for free. I didn't know that we're going to have to start charging them. If we put a septic tank there for free, they're going to have to start paying the $40 a month, even if it's not hooked up starting a year from this fall. So I think that should be clear. If you guys can
that's good. And I
clear.
know the conversations we did have with Grimes, he was definitely kind of on the fence, and he's also in the construction industry. So for him, installing some of this stuff isn't as big of a deal. So he might just choose to not want to put it in right now, and he'll just figure it out later. But we're happy to have those discussions and try to make that clear.
And so Margaret knows that she would be paying $40 a month, or 25 to 40, depending on for each one of those parcels, if she wanted to build a septic tank for each one of her parcels.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't think she knew that, because I didn't know that she would be paying that. So
I thought I was looking in this ordinance, wasn't there something in there where you could sign up, but you could
Hold the capacity.
for like a year without paying. I mean, Bruce was part of that conversation.
Yeah, that's what I
He didn't
was-
wanna- But I don't really see.
I mean, I think it would be helpful for us to check in with JB and make sure or at least all look for ourselves exactly how it's written. But I think a lot of that language is kind of around, like, everyone signs up to either connect now or they don't. And they get their system built. And then moving forward from then on, if you say, okay, MSI, I'll use MSI, but MSI decides they're going to build something completely different there. They're going to tear down all the buildings, something new, and it needs a bunch new wastewater. Let's call it 5,000 gallons per day. They're going to come to the sewer commission. They're going to say, hey, we have this project. We think we need 5,000 gallons per day. We want an allocation that we can reserve for a year or two while we go through the permits and figure everything out. The sewer commission says, yep, we got that. We can do that. Great. Now they know they have a year or two to get everything built. But they're going to be responsible for the tanks and everything.
Right,
So this scenario is a little different, where these people are saying, hey, I want the full connection, but I'm not planning to use it.
Right, they really want the septic tank built for free while it's being built and while we have the grant money, even if they may not build something for 5 years or something. So,
Correct, yeah. But that's up to
Yeah.
them. They don't have to take the tank.
but I don't know if we explicitly said they have to pay for it.
I mean, from my perspective, it doesn't matter how much water you put down the drain. Either you're kind of connected to use it or you're not. And if you have the tank, then you're sort of connected to use it as far as I'm concerned.
So you fill out, you have to fill out a permit for your allocation, everyone, regardless. There's a application form and then preliminary approval of capacity allocation, and the board kind of approves that. And then it talks about, preliminary approval and capacity allocation shall remain valid from 1 year from the date of the board's approval, but it also then goes on to say the board may issue a time extension for up to 1 year.
So that's the scenario that Julie Beth was talking about where, okay, a whole year's gone by. They're still not ready to start paying for it. They still haven't hooked up. Permitting took longer than they thought it was going to take. And the sewer commission feels comfortable that they're making legitimate progress. So they might give them an extension. But what you don't want is the folks just to say, oh, I want to keep this capacity forever and then never hook up, never have to pay anything. And they just have that like luxury of knowing they can hook up whenever they want.
Any more discussion on the easement?
I don't think so. I'm good.
Just a quick bullet here on wastewater. It's public review where we're at, and have we gotten any comments?
I have not heard of anything.
Those being sent to the town office. Who's getting those comments?
There are no comments. It would go to me.
Everybody. No news is good news.
If they have any questions directed to me, and no petition.
So that's by
May
May 3rd.
3rd.
Yeah.
It becomes effective.
And does the select board have to sign off on it formally, or it's just effective?
No, it is signed.
It's already signed.
Yeah,
So we don't have to do anything. If no comments, we don't have to do anything.
just need to record it in the land records.
That's great. So what did you say the date is for that, Linda?
May 3rd.
I think it's Friday.
Preemptive.
Oh, it's Saturday. Yeah.
Well, they have to submit a petition within 4 days of adoption of the amendment. So that's almost passed. I didn't count those days, but then it becomes effective 60 days.
Okay, good.
So related to that, and this question of the opt-out, how do we want next month's meeting if we're gonna start discussing the 5 people that said no and are looking to opt out? The wastewater committee is gonna function as the wastewater commission, right? And to make those decisions now, if that's, being that we're not-
Spells
we're
it
not-
out in the ordinance.
but we're not a commission yet, we're the committee. So we're gonna have to come up with a process on how to deal with the opt-outs, and Peter, you've already vetted those 5 that have opted out, and we kind of already know. We have to figure out what our process is gonna be. Do we want
I
to
mean,
figure that out?
My feeling is this is a select board issue, and the wastewater committee should make a recommendation to the select board that talks about whether or not you want to, what steps you might try to get these folks to actually connect, and how far you guys want to go. And I think it's about numbers, really. Like, if there's just a few outliers, maybe it's just a letter from your attorney that says you're not going to be in compliance or something. This is your last chance. And that they won't be in compliance with the ordinance, but maybe that's okay. I mean, I don't think the town is going to want to go through a huge legal process to get somebody who really doesn't want to hook up, make them hook up. But
But
that's
I
just
think
my
that-
gut feeling. That's up to the select board to decide, I guess.
But I think that's a good,
Murky and Linda, 'cause that's you.
I think that's a good point, though, that we send them, I don't know if it's a legal document, but so if we say we reviewed, you do not meet the opt-out criteria, if your system fails, you will be required to hook up at your expense, which will include a DEC and a wastewater permit, hiring a engineer, coming up with a design, and then construction, and that could be in the range of 10 to 20,000 plus dollars. This is your last chance to hook up. So if your system fails, you will be required to hook up, and it's going to cost you this unless you decide to hook up now, which it'll be free. I think we need to say that in a legal way. So that's kind of their legal warning.
Yeah, I think something in that realm is probably what makes sense.
Either that or force them to hook up now. Those
Right.
really are 2 options.
Right. And it might be worth talking to one of the town's attorneys about that.
What do you think, Linda?
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm thinking it should maybe send them a certified letter, to make sure that they got it and they understand what's going on.
So saying that you have not met our opt-out criteria.
And
Yeah.
why,
And
you know,
why.
we would need some help and why, and this is what is gonna happen.
So if your system fails, you'll be
Yeah.
required to hook up at your own expense. And the price range will be in the vicinity of this much, this much. Or you can change your mind and choose to opt in now at no cost to you.
Mhm.
Right. Yep.
So that's something we need to let the town know to draft. So we should get that out fairly soon if we have this August deadline and they want to.
Yeah, as soon as this.
Linda, do you think
ordinance-
that's something David can help us with, or is that a different attorney?
No, David can help us with it.
Yeah, okay. I'll put that on my list.
He would just need to know the reasoning behind each. Why it doesn't qualify.
So should we formally put this on the agenda for the May wastewater meeting? And then I'm just wondering, because then we'll have to take that recommendation to the select board after that. Is that what the process would be?
Yeah, I think I didn't fully hear what you said, Jim, but I
So
think,
maybe
yes,
should,
I think an agenda
So
item
if
in
we,
May.
if at our May wastewater meeting, the ordinance we finalize, we can formally talk about the process of how we're going to handle the opt-outs. Stone will give us the report on the 5 opt-outs, hopefully for that meeting where
Well,
we
it could be
can,
more by then.
yeah,
right, could be more by then. And then we can make our recommendation to the select board of what the committee thinks, how we should move forward on the opt-outs. And essentially, it's going to be force them to hook up now or give them a stern warning and say, if it fails, then you're going to have to rebuild at your own cost.
well, I think we should even send a letter to the people who do qualify.
Yeah.
And are no's, just so they understand, yes, you
I agree.
qualify.
Yes,
But this is what will happen
right.
if in the future.
I totally agree. Yep. Okay, well, I'll at least put that bug in David's ear that we might need that letter, like a legalese letter. And
Can we
see,
put-
what's that, Jim?
Can we put some sort of stipulation that if the property transfers, that we can require the new owner to hook up, or does that be a stretch?
We have no authority to do that.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that because then you're gonna
We'd have to change the
require somebody to
ordinance.
spend the 15
Yeah.
to 20 grand.
Yeah.
But it would be worth putting some sort of sentence or a couple of sentences in the letter that talk about that. FYI, transfer of property and new owners' desire to hook up doesn't change this financial obligation to incur those expenses to hook up. I can see lots of scenarios where the folks who want to buy the property want to hook up but don't necessarily want to spend that money after buying the house.
Right. I like the idea of the certified letter. Because how are we going to require them to hook up? Like Peter said, that would be a legal nightmare.
And once you have a certified letter, you have it on record that when someone comes back and complains later, here's what the proper owner said at the time.
Right. Any other last discussion on the ordinance easement? Opt out. We'll put that'll be a prominent agenda item for next month.
Okay.
Tori, Linda, any grant funding updates? Do we have a Northern Borders update?
We hate it.
You hate it. Oh,
Amy warned us all.
I want this too.
Yeah, right.
It's their
Um,
program that you have to, you can't understand it.
They got a new grants management system that this project is a guinea pig in them learning how it works on their end and how it works for the grantees, and it's a bit of a.
No, oh, we get to have survey?
Yeah, well, they might actually distribute a survey. 'Cause they have a contract with the developers that they can update it to even just make the language more clear with their guidance and stuff. So there might be one
It's just hard to know because you've got to file these quarterly reports, whether they'll say they got it, but then they don't update it in the program, so it's telling you you're late. I mean, it's,
And is that what are the original concerns on Northern Borders? Well, we were a little reluctant because is that going to delay our timeline?
we don't really even need the money.
Unless we want to grab those
We,
5 or 6
the
houses on
money is in
Flatiron.
case we didn't, we're using it for match.
I know, but are the grant requirements
Well,
going to bog down our timeline here? Because what they may be requiring, permit wise?
can you speak to that, Peter, how it's been going?
Short answer is yes, it could slow things down a little bit. They need to review the environmental interest document that we're pulling together. And so ideally, what we pulled together satisfies their requirements, but typically nothing goes that smoothly or easy with them. So I think we're out in front of that, but I can't make any promises for them, if that makes any sense.
The funding, in theory, affords the project an extra year to complete things.
And it will not have any negative sway on the indirect discharge permit for that process?
No, unrelated, as far as I know. Yeah.
Peter, I have a question. Sorry, I was checking on the plans because I forgot.
No problem.
Will the step tanks will place it in the exact location of the existing ones? Exactly, or
Yeah, I'm hoping to meet with you, Ashwak, soon.
oh,
I was curious if you're have a kids break next week, like a lot of folks, or if you are around. Because I was
yeah,
going to
I'm
try
around. It's okay. I have kids at home, but I still can meet.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. I'm hoping to set up something with you and Lynette, like maybe next week if possible.
Okay, perfect.
Great. And Tori, I was going to ask you if you had heard any rumblings or any connections with the northern borders and any of the other federal funding problems we're experiencing. Is that like kind of safe money or not necessarily? I guess I probably know the answer to that, but
Uh,
My understanding at this point is that Northern Borders they've said to continue to move ahead with their funding is safe,
okay, great.
so.
Things can change daily, as we know, but that's good news.
And I worked with Michelle to submit the decorative manhole covering design.
Okay.
So we should hear back about that in the next month or so, and can talk about maybe that with the next item in terms of how you might want to incorporate that into outreach.
When did you find out about that one?
Mid-May,
Mid-May. Okay.
if it's invited for like a full application.
Okay.
Were we gonna ask, I can't remember, we talked about it, whether we were gonna ask citizens for design?
Yep. We talked about making it like a poll or survey to submit potential ideas.
That's a good idea. We have a lot of good artists in town. That might be something pretty cool.
Fold that
Now
in.
we're doing kitty pods.
How many manhole covers are we talking about?
I spoke with Alex about it. There's like a handful in this area. That would be potentially like cast iron ones in like either the right of way, like right off the side of the road. And then each individual property will also have their own like plastic coverings. So if people want to get creative and
Okay, I was wondering if it's
Design their
apply
own.
to plastic ones too.
Design their
Apply
own.
to plastic ones too. You're being
Is that a
supervised,
match?
Bradley, huh?
What's that?
You're being supervised?
Yeah. Busy, busy.
Any other grant updates? Okay. Tori, you guys are doing the lion's share. Thank you. Linda and Tori. Outreach. So outreach has been kind of on the down low, mostly because of well, to keep the ordinance on the down low, but when would be a good time to do another front porch forum update? Maybe when we have the 60% design or when we
Yeah,
have
I was thinking that maybe
next month.
sometime after our next meeting, depending on where everything is, and like if we're reaching out to a lot of the landowners in the village anyway, I think a lot of those folks are gonna know what's going on, but yeah, probably sometime towards the end of May would probably be good to give an update on timeframes and everything to folks.
Okay. Tori, do you have any thoughts on outreach? Bradley? You guys were on the outreach committee? Linda, you were on the committee too. Oh, Bruce was too. He's not here tonight.
I don't know how much like equipment and stuff would be out there for it. Drillers are out for ledge probing stuff, but you could also be like, this is what that is.
Yeah, that's a good point. As of, we're hoping to get, well, a couple things. We're hoping to get a cancellation, but as of now, I think it's early June that we could get our earliest confirmed date with the probes. But yeah, that might be a good idea to put something out ahead of those so folks know. Yep.
Okay.
And we probably could just reuse whatever we used in the fall for that one. Just saying hey, we're doing another day of this.
So we'll look at putting a post out mid to end late May.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if we do I guess if everyone's super concerned about that, the only, I guess, thing that could happen is we get a cancellation on the probe and we get out there sooner, but it's going to be like a spur of the moment thing. So whoever's putting out those posts, do you want?
There's so many, right now, there's so many utility guys working and they're clearing lines, they're doing high-speed internet. There's a lot of stuff going on now. I don't think it'll raise a red flag if there's boring going on, but
Okay, that's sort of my feeling. We will have somebody from Stone, behind the drill rig, and whoever that is, whether it's Alex or somebody else, they can answer questions as to what's going on. So that's kind of how I feel. If we end up being out there, I wouldn't think it would be a big issue.
Peter, if I ask the school board to get us on the agenda for their May meeting, how much time do we need? Do you think a half hour?
I would think we're gonna talk for at least a half hour, yeah, but I don't think they need to put more than that. I think a half hour sounds about right. My guess is it ends up going over that a bit, but I don't think we need an hour or anything like that.
Yeah, I know they're gonna be bogged down with budget stuff and school votes, so I don't want to take up too much of their time, but
Exactly.
I would like to give them an update.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Anything else tonight, folks? So we are meeting May 20th. Next third Tuesday.
Yeah,
And
that's what I have.
School board meetings on the 21st.
Yep.
Motion to adjourn. Adjourn.
All right.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, everyone. See you next month.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good one.
Bye.
Thanks, Dr. Becker. So, we're getting out a little earlier, so 2 hours.